Okay, so we want to find the differences between two disk images. We've done something on the disk, and we've got the before and the after, and we want to find out what that difference is. So one way is to find all the files on the before or after state and see which ones are different. Now, that won't give us everything, but it'll give us a certain amount of information. We can mount the file system and extract the file. So how are we going to do that? Well, first of all, you have to know that a disk has partitions, and each partition usually has its own file system. fdisk is a program that can find the partitions. And once we know where the partitions are, we can then interpret the file system using the mount command, and then we can print out all the files in the file system using the find command. So that's what we're going to do. It's a fairly simple process. So first let's go here. If you remember, we have actually three states, and okay, what I'm first of all going to do is in fact unmount that. I don't need the VMDK version anymore, so I'm going to do fuser mount -u VMDK. Okay, so if I do ls VMDK, I've got nothing there. That's fine. Okay, now I want to create the before and the after images. So I'm going to, with Linux, one thing that is a bit annoying is when you're using something like Xmount, you have to first of all create these. And I'm going to call it raw because these aren't virtual machine images. These are just the actual disk. That's what I need in order to mount something. So I'm going to call it raw1. And I'm going to do that raw2, and I'm going to do that raw3. Okay, and now I can use xmount. So xmount. Actually, let's save me having to look it all up again. So, and now I'm going to go to the end, but I basically want all this. Okay, so I'm going to mount this image. I'm going to have the output is going to be raw. That is just the basic disk image, and I want I'm going to have this going to raw1. Okay, and I want to use the cache from Gene1. So that will be the image before I did anything. Okay, so now if I do ls -lh raw1, you'll see this. You see this disk image, it's 10 gig, and that is before I did anything. Now I can do the same thing for raw2. Okay, I want to mount it, but I want to mount the second one. And I'm going to do the same thing for raw3. So now I have three different versions. Before I did anything, just sort of after I did anything, and then I did that. Now I want to find out. The partitions will be the same in each case, so I can just type fdisk -lu raw1 / and it was I can type *dd because it ends in the actual file ends in dd, and you can see it starts at 6.3. Okay, now the mount command is a little bit awkward. It looks like an NTFS partition that starts at 6.3. Okay, the mount command, as I said, is a bit awkward when you're not used to it. So I'm just going to pretty much type it. I'll explain, however, that because it's a file, actually let's go back, ls -lh raw1. Okay, now I need to mount it somewhere. I'm going to make mkdir, I should say, ntfs1. So I'll do that, and I'll make it 2, and I'll make it 3. So after I've created these disks, I need to create file systems, or I need to create a mount point for those file systems. And I'm going to have mount, and now because it's actually already on a file system, this dd is actually a disk, even though it's kind of a virtual disk. It's on a file system, so I need to choose my loop option. Offset is equal to, now it's going to be 63, except unfortunately it's not actually 63. These are in chunks of 512 bytes, so I have to multiply 512 by 63. Now I could do that, but I can actually get if ever you want to perform a multiplication in bash, you can put in that. So I'm just going to put 512 star 63. I also want this to be read-only. I don't want to be changing the files on this. And I want to raw1/dd, okay? And I need that to go to NTFS1. Oops, I need to sudo it. Okay, and I need a password. Okay, so now if I do ls ntfs1, now, well, that mightn't look very much. It might look a little bit more familiar if I type it and open it in the browser. Okay, so there are the files. Now, believe it or not, that's a Linux system now, or a Windows system. Okay, you have documents and settings, program files, recycler, system volume information. Some of these files might be hidden from you if you view it in a Windows. I should maybe have kept the virtual machine open so I could show that as well. But anyway, this is the Windows system. Okay, and I can look at the files. For example, I think documents and settings, Gene, you can see Gene's stuff. I should have the desktop there, and I should have, hey, I thought my file would be there. I don't know where it's gone. Anyway, oh, this is before, so there's no, my Charlie's folder isn't there. Okay, so now let's do all this again, except I want to do it with raw2. Okay, now the offset is going to be the same. The partition isn't going to change, so I'm just going to keep that and I'm going to go to there. Now let's open NTFS2 and let's go to Documents and Settings, Gene, Desktop. There's Charlie's folder and there's Charlie's file, and it contains some text. Excellent, so that seems to be working. Okay, so I've got the before and the after. Now let's try and do it for 3 as well. So I want that to be NTFS3, I want that to be raw3. Okay, and now I just want to spot the differences. Okay, so there's a find command, so I can do find. Actually, this is a bit annoying when this is so long. Yeah, maybe if I go full screen for a minute. Okay, so I want to find NTFS1, and if I just type that, it'll print off all the files on the system. Okay, so you can do things like WC -L if you want to know how many there are. You see, it doesn't take terribly long. 32,000 files, but fair bit. Now remember what's happening there. This magic is really astonishing. That Xmount, the NTFS, the file system that's there, it will have a program and it'll read the partition. Now the partition isn't a real disk partition at all. It's actually implemented by Xmount, which means that Xmount has to go off to the cache and the EWF file to find out the state of the machine at the point of sending that back up, and you're getting that list. And see how fast it was. Pretty incredible, really. Anyway, that's NTFS1. Now what I want to do basically is, there's one problem. Each one of these is going to be slightly different. So I want to get rid of this bit here. Now you can do that in Linux. There's a simple way you can do that. You can do sed. You can do s, and basically it's a search and replace feature. I want to replace NTFS, and a dot will match anything. I want to replace it with nothing, at least if it comes at the beginning of a line. Okay, so now if I do that, I should see it's got rid of the NTFS at the beginning. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pipe that into one.files.out. So now I've got my list of files. Okay, and I can do exactly the same thing for 2, except obviously I should call that 2. Okay, and I can do the same thing for 3. Oops, that wants to be 3. Okay, so I've got my before and after 1, 2, and 3. So now there's various programs you can use to view differences. These are, even though it's only 32,000 lines in length, let's do ls -l star out. And you can see that they're reasonably big files. Okay, so it's going to be reasonably hard work interpret those. The one thing you could do is you could just do a quick WC minus L. That will tell you how many lines in each one. And you can see in the first one there's so it's 3 more files in this one. Okay, and there's actually fewer in the final one. Somehow there are fewer files altogether in the final thing. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what the differences are. There's a program called, there's a few difference viewers. There's one called gvimdiff, and you can compare that. Let's say I want to compare. Actually, let's just type 1.files.out and 2.files.out. So there definitely should at least be a difference in the Charlie's folder. Okay, now this might be a bit confusing when you're not used to it. So basically, these are all the same, but it's showing me, first of all, there's 1,070 lines, which are all the exact same. I can click plus if I want to view them or not, but they're exactly the same in each file system, so I can get rid of that. Now there's a difference, and there's this difference, Bluetooth file transfer wizard. Okay, now that is something to do with I don't know what that is, but it's nothing to do with my one. It's something to do with the administrator account and some file transfer wizard. Is it a .ini file or a link file? Okay, so maybe I don't know why that would have happened, but something caused this file to change. Anyway, I'm not interested in that one, so let's get rid of that. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to press plus. I meant to press. Is there a minus? Can I do a minus? No, okay, I'll just move down to this one. Now, this also happened in communications. Okay, so there's another file there. And there is Charlie's folder. And Charlie's file. Yeah, I added .text, but Windows adds a .text anyway. Okay, so that's fine. And now I have some history data. Now, a whole load of files were deleted from the history. I think when it sees very old files in the history, it deletes them. Okay, so these have disappeared. But there is something that has changed, which is this was up at 2008, 06, 30, and it's gone up to 2019. So your latest history has been updated. So this is interesting because I didn't use Firefox or Internet Explorer at all. You have to remember what I did. I created a folder, I created a directory. So this is very interesting. So this looks like it's something that's worth looking at. I wonder, can I highlight it? And no, yeah, unfortunately, to copy is fairly awkward. So I want to have a look at that because, so let's go back in there. So, and I'm just going to add something here. Exclamation mark, and I paste that in there. Okay, so, right, so that's very interesting indeed. Let's go back to gvimdiff, see if there's anything else. So you start to see a lot. This is a very simple system. You can see a lot of what's going on in the computer. Okay, let's move down. We've got, this is interesting. Look, in Documents and Settings, Gene Recent, there's 2 link files there. Okay, so let's say I delete Charlie's file and Charlie's folder. It's quite likely that these will stay in there. So this is very important as well. So I'm just going to go back there and okay, .lnk files added to the recent folder. Okay, let's go back here again. So that's very good. And they've got the Bluetooth transfer wizard. So there was some other software that caused this, and it happened in the active ones. Now the system volume restore, let's have a look at this. This is usually kind of a backup directory. Okay, and it's just copied some stuff over. So this is interesting. So there's some stuff, extra stuff that's been copied over to the backup folder. It may not be terribly interesting, but it's worth noting that this could be interesting information. Okay, remember these white lines there's nothing different about these. These are just to provide context before you get a set of changes, and same with these ones. So it always shows it looks like 7 lines before, 7 lines after, and you have your changes. Okay, so then you have this snapshot. The registry is backed up. Okay, now the registry will have a lot of things, and then there's a lot of files in there. Okay, now there's something here called prefetch. There's fsquirt. There's another, oh yeah, that's not a change. There's run DLL has changed. There's some logs. No, there should be one other. Oh yeah, okay. So there's logs here. This is to do with software distribution. So it's possibly when Windows is being updated. Some other files being deleted, which is fair enough. Okay, and yeah, no, there could be other interesting stuff here, but I don't want to spend too much time on that. Some more. It's got a last good INF. Oh, I don't know if that means anything, and I'm not even going to stay too long on it. I just want to go through this a little bit faster. Okay, right. So basically, we've seen this index.dat file. We've seen the 2 files. We've seen the recent folder changing. So all these are kind of interesting. So let's just do that once more again, except for this time we want to look at the difference between 2 and 3. Okay, so let's move over. So again, there's more stuff in the information restore. We could have a look at those files maybe, but I'm not going to bother too much about these. There's some deleted files there. Let's have a quick look. I think that's under, yes, that's under, yeah, that's fine. So Windows is updating software all the time, so some of them are just to do with that. Now, of course, if you're in doubt about anything, you can just look it up on the internet. Right, so here's a directory that's missing, that's been removed. So let's go on. So there's some Windows security. These are kind of log files that have disappeared. There are some more log files. Again, I'm not really an expert in this area, so there isn't actually that much. Okay, so we haven't seen everything that's happened, but we have seen some interesting things. We've seen these link files, and we've seen in the recent folder, and we've seen this this Windows the Windows the Internet Explorer cache file. Okay, so I'm just going to type that. Okay, so this is the file here. So I just would like to have a look at that. Okay, and I need to. That was in. Yeah, so that was in NTFS2. So I'm just going to use. That's probably a text file. So I'm going to use a debugger. It was in NTFS2. Remember the second partition, and I just paste all that in. And I'll be able to see it now. Oops, what's going on there? Oh yeah, because there's spaces in these files, and the Linux terminal doesn't really like that. So I need to. Okay, so this is the Windows cache file, and you can see, oh, it's got something here. Okay, so this is very interesting. It has Charlie's text file. Okay, so this is just a file on Gene's. This is the one I created. Okay, I opened that file, and it ended up in the Internet Explorer cache. Now you can tell there's something a bit unusual about it because it says it's a file. So this is an amazing artifact. This means that if I simply open a file, it looks like it's going to be saved here. So this is well worth knowing. Now, there's a little... so let's see. Let's go back. There's various things you can use to interpret these, but one of them is called Pasco. And oh yeah, so it interprets this and it's telling me. In other words, it's making this information a little bit prettier. There's probably a date here. Actually, no, that's not a date. But there probably is a date, and it's going to interpret that information and make it a bit easier. So I accessed my computer, and it's giving me the date. It's giving me the time, 12:37, and it's then saying I accessed this text file, and it is saying the date, and you can see 37:48. So it exactly matches the time. It matches everything. Okay, so it's telling me I looked at a file. So this is amazing. If you did not know about this, you can use this technique to find this. And in fact, for a long time, people did not know about this. It's a well-known artifact now, but it wasn't known about for a long time. Okay, so so this technique can be used to find artifacts. Now, there are a lot more because at the moment we are just comparing files. But in fact, a lot of files have been changed. They still exist in the computer, so they're not going to show up in this at all. So later on, we'll have a look at how you would spot that.